Welcome to the Know I'm Ashley.
I'm Gus.
No secret, Nintendo likes to make a lot of versions of its consoles.
Especially when it comes to handhelds.
Especially the handhelds, and I'm a sucker.
Both the DS and 3DS were revised multiple times over the years. Those updates usually involve reducing the size, boosting the power, and in 3DS's case, removing the 3D functionality entirely and renaming it the 2DS.
It's innovative! Not to mention all of the special editions.
Yeah, and I guess when they went from the 3DS to the 2DS, they didn't want the D anymore.
Oh. Of course, it's not just Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. They've also released more powerful versions of PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Everyone did it last generation as well, to all to make their games look prettier.
And with the wild success of the Switch, some are now wondering, will the super popular hybrid get an update as well?
Well, actually, ever since the Switch launched last year, people have hypothesized we could see everything from a mini version of the handheld to a more powerful one, similar to, well, Nintendo's handheld model, like the new 3DS and the 2DS and the new 3DS XL, and you get all the different sizes and combinations, so you can get exactly the kind that you like.
You can get just as many Ds as you want. In fact, that's one of the things we've heard from a lot of you guys who've been holding out, that a new version will inevitably be coming any day, and you'll hop on that Switch train when that happens.
Right, like, I'll just wait for the XL to come out. Well, according to a report by the Wall Street Journal's Takashi Mochizuki, don't expect new hardware anytime soon. Sorry, gonna burst that little bubble. Nintendo doesn't have any plans to release a Switch 2.0 or anything like that in the immediate future.
What about a Switch 1.5?
Nope.
Citing sources, Mochizuki reports that instead of a remade console, Nintendo is aiming to increase sales of the Switch with new peripherals and expanded network features.
Those new peripherals include the upcoming cardboard-based Nintendo Labo kits, which allow you to build various creations like a piano or a robot that are integrated with the Switch's hardware.
And other future peripherals, according to the article, would be attached to the Switch's USB Type-C port.
We discussed this a little bit earlier, and I am holding out for some kind of adapter that just runs like a bar that runs along the entire bottom, because, you know, you gotta keep it even. But that adds wireless headphone support. Are you with me, people? Yes, please. As for changes to the actual console itself, like a smaller version that fits in people's pockets. Unlikely this year, according to Nintendo. Instead, the company is going to focus on better manufacturing and shipping of the current model.
Make more money off of the existing one. It does make sense considering the Switch has been out for less than a year, and for most of that time, Nintendo's biggest problem has been just keeping it on the shelves.
Wait, it's like, we're like a year now.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, for anyone looking to buy one these days, that shortage has passed, but it is still in consumers' best interest that Nintendo keep moving along.
CEO Tatsumi Kimishima has told investors that he wants to make the Switch's product cycle longer than the 5 to 6 year span, which has become the norm in gaming.
Yeah, and the Wii, PS3, Xbox 360 cycle was longer than that. It was more like 8 years, and that's what a lot of people have now like grown up to expect. But that generation was an exception. They're usually way shorter.
They have been, but we'll see.
We will see.
A source told the Journal that one way to extend the Switch's cycle would be to wait longer to introduce variations in the hardware, so that could explain why Nintendo is in no rush to update the Switch.
Still though, for almost as long as the Switch has been around, unless I've been talking about remaking it.
That talk started just a month or so after it was released last year, when analysts at Citigroup Incorporated said that while the console was selling well, they called it too big to truly combine home and portable gaming for everyone.
Well, they predicted that Nintendo would release a mini Switch sometime in the fiscal year that ends in March 2019. That's been the big one, not even going bigger, but going smaller and more handheld.
So is the joke on them because the Switch sold like crazy anyway? They're like, oh, I don't know, it's too big. And then
I don't know that this is going to do well. It did blow everything out of the water.
Yeah, so I'd take that with a grain of salt. In a report last April, those analysts said, although the Nintendo Switch can be used as a handheld device, we think smaller children could struggle to use it comfortably in that format due to its size and weight. Accordingly, we think Nintendo will launch a lighter dedicated handheld version of the Switch, possibly to be called the Switch Mini.
And yeah, back then they were estimating that a mini Switch might sell 6.7 million units in the 12 months through March 2019, but they also, at that time, were expecting the Switch to sell 25.7 million units by then. They were very precise in their points of millions.
It's probably safe to say that those predictions aren't going to happen now.
Not even close.
No. Meanwhile, the Switch is now projected to sell way above those numbers.
Over the last 12 months, the Switch has proven to be a sales juggernaut that doesn't seem to be slowing down yet. So Nintendo now expects that it's going to sell 17 million units in its first year. They're targeting 20 million sold over its second year.
And that was a supply-constrained first year, mind you.
Yeah, that was with all the people who wanted to buy it not being able to. So that's actually very impressive that in the first year, they not only passed, but left in the dust their entire life-to-date Wii U numbers.
And part of the reason for the big sales, according to some, is that some analysts are now classifying the Switch as more of a mobile handheld device, and therefore multiple people in a household could own their own Switch as opposed to just owning one per house, like you usually find with a more traditional console.
And I mean, totally anecdotal, but that's absolutely how it works in my house. I'm not sharing my Switch. Doesn't help that
It's got your saves on it.
Exactly. I can't trust that to anyone. But treating it more like a handheld and more than one person in the house having their own also means the Switch could sell a lot more units, more like a handheld, more like 3DS numbers. And also, it has released a lot of all-time great games too, which helps.
Definitely. So Nintendo's always got its detractors who either aren't willing to compromise graphics for portability or who aren't into the franchises and don't feel the hype.
That's fine.
Ryan, we're looking at you. But the people who are enjoying the platform and games are enjoying them in the millions. It's been enough to boost the company out of the downswing. Wii U put them in.
Well, as for those additional network features they're talking about, not entirely clear yet what those might entail completely. First things first, Nintendo needs to roll out its online service for the Switch, which was supposed to come out last fall but was delayed and is now scheduled to launch in September.
Once it finally gets here, the service will cost $3.99 a month or $19.99 per year, according to Nintendo, and it will offer a compilation of classic titles each month, such as Super Mario Bros. 3, Balloon Fight, and Dr. Mario, but what it will look like beyond that is pretty vague.
Yeah, so Nintendo still has to roll that one out before it can think about expanded features, and I have my fingers crossed that they've been reworking a lot because the implementations with their voice so far have not impressed.
To put it mildly. What this story ultimately seems to point out, though, is that the Switch certainly isn't broken right now sales-wise, and Nintendo knows that, and they're definitely not in a rush to try and fix anything.
If anything, what Nintendo really needs to keep momentum going is what every console needs: games. The Switch had a really strong first year. If they can keep the console supplied with lots of new games, lots of high-profile stuff, those sales are probably going to continue to follow suit.
Judging by the eShop, they're doing their best to pump all kinds of games into the ecosystem, and it's working to the point that next up, they may have a discoverability problem to solve.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's a good problem if you've got so many cool games and experiences on the platform that it's difficult to surface them all for people. But it's a good problem, still a problem. But there are a lot of great games coming to eShop. You should check it out. Anyway, what do you guys think of reports that Nintendo isn't going to update the Switch anytime soon? Good idea, or would you have liked to see a mini Switch? Would you like to see a Switch XL? Let us know in the comments.
I'll take a Switch XL. And for all your Nintendo and Switch news, be sure to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the know. I got big hands. I need a Switch XL.
They look like good, strong hands, don't they? I think the for the Switch, the version of special editions is just gonna be Joy-Cons.
Oh.
I mean, that's like, we know that now.
Them in the millions, and it's been enough to boost the company out of the downsizing.